Hello, everyone. I am your host, Phobos Onyx of Onyx Midwest, and welcome to Toy With Me. For today's show, we'll be discussing drag, trans identity, and the power of sex positivity. Our two incredible guests are here to share their unique stories and how their journeys lead them to become advocates for safe sex, healthier practices, and self-expression. Let's dive into these lives behind the performances and the power of embracing our differences. Let us welcome our guests from Calor, Emily and Milani. Y'all go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hi everyone, my name is Emily Jade Aguilar and my pronouns are she, her, ella.
Hi everyone, my name is Milani. My pronouns in drag are only she and hers or ella, and out of drag doesn't matter he, she, they as long as it's respectful.
Thank you for coming today. And tell us, what do y'all do for Calor?
Sure. So my official title is the Lead Navigator for Essential Support Services, which is a sub grant from CDPH. They were subcontracted through Southside Hope Center, which is our sister organization, part of AIDS Healthcare Foundation. I also do HIV testing. I help clients get linked to HIV care or PrEP, and sometimes PEP. And I also train some of our new staff to become HIV testers at Calor. And I do a lot of other projects that involve community work. A lot of it involves drag. But yeah, I've been there for about 4 years. And yeah, it's I love the work that we've been doing at Calor.
Okay, she is busy. How about you, Emily?
Thank you for that question. Yeah, so I'm the health navigator at Calor. There's two other beautiful teammates that I have as well. But essentially what we do is we help our community in whatever they need, if that's applications to SSI, SSDI, or SNAP benefits or insurance navigation, really whatever you name it will not only either give you a resource, but we will walk with you and ensure that you get all of the care that you need, right? And that's something really beautiful, especially for like our community members, because these systems weren't created for us oftentimes, so it's hard to navigate them.
That is very important. A lot of people don't even know that they're out there. They don't know where to start. They don't know where to go to get help. So thank y'all for that. There's often confusion between drag and transgender identities. How do you personally navigate or clarify these differences in your work and life?
I mean, there's this, and then there's this.
There's the clown, and there's the woman.
No, what was the question?
Oh,
again?
like, how do you navigate to clarify these differences between drag and transgender?
Listen, I know that people I'm known for saying, hi everyone, my name is Emily Jade Aguilar and my pronouns are she, her, ella. But I think that is the clearest way that anyone and everyone knows your pronouns. They don't need to know anything besides that. As long as you know my pronouns and my name, let's continue the conversation. So that is the easiest way that we can just do it.
Okay.
For me, obviously, it's a little bit different because I'm a drag queen, but I'm also gender nonconforming. So that's why I specifically, whenever I introduce myself with my pronouns, I always say that in drag is always going to be she and her. I will take offense if I'm called a he or an it or anything offensive. The reason why is because a lot of drag queens are also trans people. A lot of trans people also do drag. So if you see me as a woman, people that don't know me are not going to know if I'm trans or if I'm just a drag queen or I'm just a cross-dresser. You're never going to know. So that's why I feel that it's important that if you see someone and, you see them as a woman, address them as a woman. So yeah, and when I'm not in drag, that's why I say it doesn't matter, because sometimes I have some nails here and there. My clothes might be a little different here and there. But yeah, out of drag, I don't take offense because, I understand the way society works. But I do appreciate when people question my pronouns and specifically ask me my pronouns. Okay. Yeah.
I have another question. Is it the same with potential partners? Like, how do you educate potential partners about your identity?
Ooh, okay. So this one's a little harder because, in like, for example, like if in person or on apps, whatever, if there's a potential partner, I always make it clear to them. Sometimes I get confused for a cisgender woman. But I'm like, no, hey, by the way, I'm a drag queen, okay? I'm not trans. So, baby, when we get into that bed, all this foam is coming off. You will not see, it's nothing here, nothing there. It's all an illusion with an illusion. So, yeah, I have to make that clear because, a lot of these potential partners are, looking specifically for, trans women who have gotten work done and have gotten surgeries. So I have to be really careful with that and make it clear from the beginning, like, hey, you're not gonna see all these hips and all of this.
That's a tea. No, I mean, no foam here, so I don't know what to say to that. But I think for me, like, just I'm a very vocal person. So if I'm on like a dating app or like whatever it is, I always say like unapologetically trans, and I think that can start the conversation. Now I understand it's not safe all the time to do that as well, but I think for me, like, that's how I identify as safety for me. So I just openly say it before anyone. But people don't be reading the bio, so I'm like, oh, I gotta say this again.
That brings me to this statement. Let me hit you with this. Transgender people are over 4 times more likely than cisgender people to be victims of a violent crime. How do you protect yourself when dealing with potential sex partners?
Yeah, that's hard. I mean, some of us have opportunities and some of us don't, right? Like, I think for me, as a former sex worker, like, you're just risking it. You just kind of have to risk it and hope that, either you didn't meet with the police or whatever, right? But things have gotten a lot easier now with like dating apps and stuff like that. There's ways that we could be more discreet. But I think like if you're not doing like a safety check, like sharing your locations with your friends, letting them know like, hey girl, if I don't like text you by this time, please call me. Like, just setting those things in place are so helpful, and just at least letting one person know. If it's your other bust down friend, if you don't want to tell your family, let that bust down friend know that you're gonna go be a cheese tray and maybe homie hopper. So just create that plan.
Yeah, I totally agree with Emily. I think there should be some type of plan in place, whenever you're going to put yourself in a situation like that, because you are putting yourself at risk. Regardless if you told your potential partner or partners that, you're trans or you're drag queen or gender diverse. Me personally, when I used to have roommates, I would create like some type of system like, hey girl, I'm gonna have someone over, either you can stay in your room, or if you want to step out of the apartment, just make sure you're around the block. Just take a couple walks around the block, because I've had been in a situation where I was in danger and I had to go to the backyard and yell out for my roommate's name to come and help me. Thankfully he was right around, so that helped a lot. And then kind of scare the partner as well, because he noticed that I had someone there that I could just yell out their name and they would come. So it's, creating a little system like that, and just like Emily mentioned, making sure like, like you tell one of your friends, I'm going to be here with this person, or you ping yourself where you're going to be at. So yes, creating some type of system where you're going to make sure that if anything were to happen to you, that at least you have a lead. Right?
I do have a quick question. I know people who do this. Do you ever carry, of course, in self-defense, a weapon with you?
Yeah.
I know that's right. Gotta stay with something,
I actually don't. I have like a knife in my car. I'm a big girl, so I have a fork. If there's a purse, there's a fork in there. And you can like, no shade, but you can use it.
You can.
You can. And like, my car key is like, you click the button and it's like, So
I got one of them too.
Like, nah, don't mess with me, But I should have like pepper spray and those things. Maybe a baby Glock or something in the bag.
Baby Glocks do what they need to do.
Prostitute pistol, yes.
I don't personally carry anything, but I would look for like something sharp, like my heels, my ring, my hands. Catch these hands.
The rings, that's a good idea.
What happened?
The rings, that's a good idea.
Yeah. But I've been, when before I used to have a knife under the mattress, just in case, you never know.
Baseball bat next to the bed. Yeah.
Next to every door.
Yep.
Next to
Especially the
every
front door. Steel one. Um, I have a question. Are y'all familiar with the panic defense? Have y'all heard of it?
I've heard very, very little of
Okay.
it, but yes.
Let me inform the audience in case they didn't know. So the panic defense is when a defendant argues that their violent actions are both explained and excused by their victim's real or perceived sexual orientation or gender identity expression. The goal is to employ homophobia or transphobia to persuade a jury into fully or partially acquitting the defendant. Basically, I was scared, I didn't know, whatever. Hear that a lot on the news. What are your thoughts on the panic defense?
Well, okay. I think it's complete bullshit. Definitely complete bullshit.
I agree.
And I'm familiar with it because I watch a lot of Law and Order SVU, and I watch a lot of crime stuff. I'm
do
obsessed
too.
with all that. Oh man, anything that gives my adrenaline rush. Ooh, yeah. But yeah, and I call it total bullshit because these men that are sleeping with trans people or gender non-conforming people, they know. They know. For the most part, the trans person or drag person will let their partners know, like, hey, like a disclaimer, right? I have this, I have that. So when I've seen cases where the defendant, is it right? The defendant they're called?
Who?
The offender? Defendant?
The defendant.
The defendant, yeah.
The defendant.
Yeah, when the defendant tries to use the panic button or what is it called?
Panic defense.
The panic defense. It's complete and total bullshit because it's just their way of getting away with it. I watched some get away with murder too, but yeah, it's definitely a way for them to hide their sexuality, to hide their sexual preferences, to hide that they are attracted to that unique type of of women, right? So yeah, it's I'm so glad that, like they mentioned earlier, that it's illegal here in
Illinois. Yep.
Yeah, I mean that law is very hard on a lot of community members. I know, especially like for me and like other sex workers that I talk to, this is probably one of the best practices that DL men, businessmen, or business
Politicians.
politicians, this is how they operate to continue to have sex workers silent. And in the case that I'm talking about, it's trans women, in particular black and brown trans women. And so this is like so fucked up and so bad. And actually here in Chicago, we are a couple of sex workers are unionizing, and we're saying like, this is not for us. We deserve to feel safe while we're at work. We deserve to feel loved and appreciated. And I think that law is just trash. And I think that's why us unionizing was so important for us here in the state of Illinois, and really creating like a blueprint for other folks to hopefully continue to tag along on this bus.
Okay. Now, I haven't noticed it, but I heard about it that some people go to drag performances and they think they're at the strip club because they're sexualizing the drag performers. As a drag performer, how do you feel about those who sexualize drag performers?
I mean, I guess it could be case by case. I mean, it does feel nice to feel appreciated while you're performing. And yes, in a way, we kind of are strippers. We're, sometimes barely wearing any clothes, and we shake our asses for tips. It's similar work,
You
right?
shake your ass, Milani?
I shake my foam, girl.
Your foam.
I shake my foam. I shake my foam.
Stay after. She's going to do a quick demonstration.
So I think it's I think it's, in a way, sometimes it is pretty cool that some men do sexualize us, because we're performing. And sometimes, there's different types of drag. There's different types of performers. Some performers are actually very, they're very sexualized in the performance, and I find that so empowering. Like I mentioned, there's different kinds of drag, but there's something about drag performers who like to do burlesque type or strip teases or, very sensual songs. and lyrics. I find it very empowering. So, like I love it. I love to see it, the hair flips, the whole, sexualizing themselves. Um, but I have seen cases where it's not a very good experience for the performer. Sometimes, people get a little too touchy. There's a thing called consent that some people don't respect. Um, so yeah, like I said, that would be case by case. Some performers enjoy it when they're being touched or they play with the audience as part of their gig, right? But some don't. That's why it's very important to know and to disclaim if you're hosting a show, like, hey, by the way, it's okay. It's not okay to touch this performer, because even sometimes I find it gross when they try to tip you with $1 in their mouth. It's like, oh, girl, first of all, the germs in that dollar bill, that is
And
not
you put
cute.
it in your mouth.
Yeah, but sometimes, you might be a little hot. So I'm like, okay, girl, I'll make an exception just for you. So it depends.
I know that's right.
Yeah.
How do you educate potential sex partners who confuse you as trans?
Well, like I mentioned there earlier, the whole disclaimer from the beginning, like I'm not trying to trick anyone. I'm not trying to pretend that I'm a trans person who's gotten work done. That's why I have to be very clear from the beginning. You're not. If I'm not lazy, I'll put the body on for them, But I start to say like, hey, this is just a couch, it's just cushion for the.
Well,
cushion.
girl, they can sit on you then. It's nice and comfortable.
That too.
That's like a new foreplay. Like,
Oh, how
sit
you
on my
doing?
couch. Like, sit on my foam.
Ooh.
Just wash it first.
Oh, boots. But yeah, it's always just making sure that from the beginning you tell them, because sometimes they expect with okay, I'm gonna say a quick little story. One time I was being intimate with a partner and he tried to pull my hair. I'm like, wait, it's a wig. And then he's like, I don't care. I'm like, it's not glued on. And then he still pulled it. He ended up pulling it off, and I'm like, "Ay, my guilt." But I mean, he didn't care. He kept
going? Okay.
He kept going. And
That's
I'm like,
all that
I
matters.
guess. I mean, I was already hot, so I'm like, why not take my little hair off? Just whatever. Keep going, I guess. He didn't mind. I didn't mind.
Yeah. Hey. Well, let's switch it up a little bit. What does sex positivity mean to you personally, and how has it shaped your journey in life and advocacy work?
That's a great question. I think for me, like as a trans woman, like there's just so many different layers that we kind of have to unpack, right? Like first we think about like, damn, I was born like X gender and now I feel like this gender, right? So that's something that we have to unpack. And then like I just started transitioning at a fairly young age. I was like 14 when I like officially started, but like here and there I was just like a very sissy gay boy. And so like I think for me, like I was like, I will never be a top because I associated being a top with like masculinity. So I was like, to be soft and like someone that I wanted to be, I was like, you only need to bottom, you only can bottom. And then also like feeling dysphoric is like crazy as well. But quick story time as well. I think like once you find the perfect bottom, like I don't know if you can ever go back to like being a bottom. Like I don't know if it's just like poking out and like no, like if they give you good head first and then like afterwards you just go to Pound Town. But that's when I discovered that I was a top, and I think it's the most like woman empowering thing that I could ever do is fuck someone, like a man. Like it's so hot.
Girl, I 100% agree with you. I prefer to top in drag. So I always tell people, because when they ask me you top or bottom, I'm like, in drag, she's a top. Out of drag, she's a bottom. Because there is something so empowering about a woman topping a man. Like, I don't know, like, there's some sense of empowerment. You don't have to be the bottom. I don't know. I find that very hot. I find it very hot.
That blew me away the first time I heard that, like many years ago. Straight men that want to be topped by drag queens. And I was just like confused, but that's because I was in my teens when I heard about it. But now I'm a grown man. I'm like, hey, Get down how you want. Get down how
Right.
you live.
There's no confusion. Like
No, they know what they
the
want.
whole is the goal. Just go ahead.
Now, with that being said, you also got to be safe. So that brings me to this toy box we got back here. We're going to go to a flashback to Pride Fest and tell you more about this wonderful toy box. Now, let's take a short break and get into something very important. Getting tested is so important. Whether you play a little or you play a lot, you should never play with your health, especially when there are so many resources like those provided by Project Vita and those free at-home testing kits. Getting tested is as easy as 1, 2, 3. With at-home testing brought to you in collaboration with Sinai Chicago, all you have to do is scan the QR code or go to the URL on your screen and sign up to receive your free HIV testing kit directly to your house. Once you take the test, call the number provided to tell them the results, and this fun little toy box will be on its way to you. Just that easy. Brought to you by the Test, Play, Repeat campaign here at Project Vita. One more time. Test, Play, Repeat. Now let's get back to the show. All right. It's time to dive into the heart of today's episode with the game we like to call This or That. So what we're going to do, we're going to explore the unique questions from breaking down misconceptions to sharing preferences. That sounds like real complicated. But what we're going to do is, how can we empower others to be more open about sex? While we ask the questions to our guests, our audience members will choose between two options by flipping their whiteboards to show their answer. So it'll be this or that. So first example, I guess the first one will be this, and the second one will be that for y'all, so y'all ain't got to keep writing. But first one, talk or text? Talk is this, text is that. I will go first. Text for me.
I will say talk. I'm a chatty Kathy. I love to talk.
I would say that. I ain't trying to talk to nobody. No, text me. No, I don't know. I guess times are changing. I used to love, the whole, talking for hours and falling asleep together on the phone. But fuck that bullshit. I'd rather just text me because I be busy. I can't always be answering people's phone calls. I be ignoring people. So I'd rather
but you
get a
gotta
text.
make time for the people that you love.
True, I guess.
She said, I guess. Well, I'm going to add to that is, would you rather have a conversation about sex and boundaries face-to-face, talking, or through text? Would you do that?
No, I have to in person because like anything that you do in person is so golden because you just find out everything. So I would say in person.
I would piggyback off of that. It's also in person. In that case, yeah, general conversation text, but talking about sex preferences, boundaries, that has to be face-to-face with me because I want you to see every expression on my face so you can know how serious I am, and I want to see yours. How about you?
See, I was going to say text, but y'all both just changed my mind because, like right now, just a second, only because I want, sometimes people argue on the phone through text, but you can't read emotions. So if you're doing it face to face, that you can, when you're trying to talk, for example, as boundaries, you can see if they're being for real or if they're being, they're not being serious. Also, like, is it safe or not? They might through text be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna follow all your boundaries and follow all the rules, but then in person it completely changes. So,
Well, that's why you gotta let them know in person again before you start going crazy. Or you can like recap your conversation like at work, like through text, like just like, hey, just to clarify, so we're both on the same page.
That way you got a receipt.
Exactly.
I was just about to bring that up. Like the one advantage of texting, you can go back and scroll and be like, this way you got me messed up. I told you that wasn't gonna happen.
This is where you had me fucked up.
And that's why you had me fucked up.
Yeah, so I say both. I like both. Okay, how about private or public? Now let me lay this one on you. Do you believe that sexual health conversations should take place more privately in one-on-one settings, which is private, or in public places that could be considered safe? Public, which is that.
Oh, I think it's both. I think we should always be allowed to speak in public about sex, about consent, about all of these different things. Everyone should be hearing it. But like, if you're talking to like your man or like your partner, and I think, well, just try to keep that private. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to hear how crazy you get.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say private, because you don't have to filter yourself, because I feel like in a public place, you kind of have to narrow it down because you have to be aware of your surroundings. Or for example, let's say if you're at a nightclub and you're trying to have that conversation, yeah, the music's loud, so you gotta talk extra loud, but you never know your sister that's sitting across the table from you is listening to your whole entire conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think privately would be a healthier option for me.
For me, I think it's so many variables. Like you said, if it's your man 101, someone you already know. Public, if you don't really know the person and you're talking about things such as bondage, impact play, you don't know this person, they might tie you up and whatever. But also with the public thing, you got to be mindful of where you are too. Like you said, nightclub, it might be loud. You got to talk loud, or I wouldn't go somewhere like Disneyland and have that conversation. So that also comes into play too. So I think a little bit of both. How about this one? Love or lust? Do you think love, relationships, or lust, hookups, shapes people's views on sex positivity more? Do you think they influence like people's sex positivity, love, and or lust? And which one would you want? I'll go first. I want love because I have been, lusting for long enough. And I can always still lust while I'm loving. So
I think I'm a lover girl. Like, down. Like, I'm gonna give my man my whole check. I'm gonna let him drive my car. Like,
Oh.
yeah, it's real bad,
Ooh.
real fast. But like, no, like I think I love, and you know what? I think I lust a lot though because I love love. But
Oh.
yeah.
I don't know. It depends on the season. I mean, I would say love. Um,
Girl,
don't
no, you
know.
won't.
I don't know. Yeah, like I mean, I would say 50-50. Cause lust is cute too. Like
It is.
if you're single, I think if you're single, lust. If you're partner, love.
I haven't been asking the audience. I see y'all got signs and I want y'all to hold them up. Let's start with, since y'all heard, what we're talking about, love or lust? How many would say love in the audience? You can just raise your hand. Oh, majority is say love. Who says lust? Okay, couple of people. Like, which do you think love or lust shapes people's views on sex positivity more? So, do you think love is more important for sex positivity, or do you think lust is?
I think both are, you get something out of both, and you can learn something about yourself from both. So like with a hookup, you might not know the person, you might not see the person again. So you might be a little bit more freakier with that person and like get something out of it that you really want. And in a relationship, you might be a little bit more timid at first to do that. So I feel like both can shape that positivity.
I like that response. That was a good answer. Let me move on to the next one. Drag or sex work? Which community do you think faces more stigma when discussing sexual health? Drag performers, drag, or sex workers, sex work?
You say who faces more discrimination?
More stigma when
more
discussing
stigma.
sexual health.
Ooh, definitely. I see it more towards sex workers because there's still so many drag queens and drag performers out there judging sex workers. Yeah, so it's like, girl, like, let's normalize sex work. Like, you know, I hate that it's illegal in the United States. You know, so yeah, I definitely see more stigma on sex workers, whether they're male, female, trans, drag queen, whatever. There's so many judgmental people out there. It's like, girl, nobody's perfect. You ain't perfect yourself. So why are you here judging sex workers? Saying, oh, I would never do that. I would not, be on these websites, or I wouldn't be on OnlyFans or stuff like that. It's like, girl, don't yuck on their yum. Like, they're making their money. So
Okay.
why create this stigma? Because then it starts creating this it's just unhealthy because it turns out into unhealthy outcomes. Like higher rates of HIV, STIs, and other things that can come along with it. And sometimes you never know a person's story. They might be a sex worker out of need, not out of want. So we gotta be careful how we're, talking amongst our group of friends or our group of other drag performers. But yeah, I've seen it more towards sex workers.
Okay.
Um, I think both. They like. I know a lot of drag queens who are also sex workers. And that's real. And I think both communities are under attack. And I also know that they are a lot of our vulnerable like populations as well. And I think that both of them do their profession out of necessity, right? And I know for like sex workers, like growing up as like a little gay boy to now a trans woman, all I heard about sex workers were trans women. Like my family sat down and was like, if you're like a gay man, then you're going to like be like homie hopping and just fucking around, right? Never gonna have a relationship, never gonna get married, and if you're a trans woman, you're a sex worker.
That also has to do a lot with society and how like Law and Order SVU or TV shows and a lot of these television always has trans women as sex workers. There's barely happening now, but like growing up, yeah, and I feel that that's one of the reasons why our families create that stigma, that sex workers are gonna be trans people because of the way that society has put that on television.
Yeah, and I think both the stigmas need to end for both communities. I know for me, like, I know a lot of like queer people and drag folks that are in the scene, and even sex workers scared to go get tested because of the stigma, right? And so like a lot of people just rather not even think about it. And I think like for me, I am blessed to be an overthinker, right? So like the first time I sucked some dick, I'm like, I need to go get tested for HIV. Like it was like really that, but like a lot of people are also scared because the reality is our communities are experiencing high rates of HIV.
I really like those points that y'all made up, especially when you said the drag queens are hating on the sex workers and giving, judging them. That made me think, it depends on who's doing the judging because, like you said, the whole community is being judged and has a stigma because there are people on the outside who just group everybody together. And like you said, TV has helped shape that stigma that all trans people are sex workers. So, yeah, I think it's both, like you said. But let's go to another one. Dry or wet? When it comes to penetrative play, do you prefer teasing touches and dry sensations, dry, or getting a little messy with oils and wet fun, wet?
Oh, I like it wet and sloppy, like ooh,
I
I don't
do
want
too.
none of that dry stuff. No,
I
give
do
me
too, especially with sweat
messiness.
or spit
Oh yes, a little pee here
and
there
other little
too.
fluids. Yeah.
No, girl, you've been talking about this peeing for a minute now. This is like the fourth time she brought up
You
peeing.
never know. You know, just try
If
it.
anyone wants to have a golden shower, make sure to follow Milani at Malusions. But I think for me, like, I don't know, y'all, I get crazy real fast, real quick.
Uh-oh.
So, like, I like a good, like, let's touch a little bit. Let me, like, play with your ass a little bit. Like, I think that can just satisfy my needs. Now, like, don't get me wrong, I like the wet, but then I'm like, bitch, I'm just trying to be inside now. Like, I just can't keep it together, Like, my tuck is gonna pop.
Oh my goodness. Oh, this is a good one. How about see or feel? Do you get more turned on by the visuals, little lingerie, lingerie, skin, the tease, see? Or is it all about the sensation, touch, caresses, that physical connection, feel?
No, I like the feel. I like it when it bounces back. Like, when I smack it a little bit and it's bouncing back, like.
If I had to, go ahead.
I would say touch. Like there's something I watch Grey's Anatomy too. Like your endorphins come out when the human touch is so powerful. So yeah, definitely. Like, and there's certain spots in our bodies, and everybody's body is different, but there's certain spots where it just like hits the spot. So even just if there's no penetrative sex or no oral sex, sometimes it's just the touch of another human being that can really release all these endorphins and make us feel better. Like, it's good for our mental health. The touch of another human being is very healthy for us. And that is something that I feel maybe Miss COVID-19 had something to do with it. But, there's such a disconnection that I've been seeing, that I've noticed with people, that we need to go back to that human touch, still washing our hands and stuff like that,
So, Milani, are you saying like we should just be fucking up on each other? Like, is that what you're saying?
I mean, if we charge people, yeah.
Follow us at our OnlyFans.
I'm gonna say for me, I wouldn't say neither. I would say both. But if I had to pick one, the reason why I said neither is because I don't want just touch. I want taste, smell, sound. I want all of that. But feel is more than see to me, because if I'm feeling them, then I'm probably close enough to taste them anyway. So
That part.
okay, so let's do another one real quick. Thongs or booty shorts? When it comes to feeling your sexiest, which do you reach for? Thongs or booty shorts?
I want to hear you answer this question.
I laugh at that because I've been doing drag for 15 years. I've never wore underwear.
Also, neither.
Never. Like, for what? Like, it's like a Barbie doll. There's nothing there. Because I have all these dialogues and fishnets and tucking panties, So, like, I know a lot of performers like to wear, like, lingerie and underwear, and I just don't see a point with it. Except I learned my lesson about a month ago. I was performing, and my costume, I guess, I've been eating my mama's food a little bit too much. It popped from the pussy area.
Ooh.
And I was performing, and my kuka was all out, and I'm like, well, I mean, it's not real, so I kept performing. I'm like, whatever, pretend it's a Barbie doll. But yeah, that's why I was laughing, because I'm like, I don't wear nothing. I mean, just a bra, but that's just to hold my foam titties. But yeah, I don't give a shit about panties.
I did hear some voices in the audience, so I want to ask the audience that question. You could just raise your hand. Is it for you thongs? Raise your hand. Okay, because I heard somebody say booty shorts. Booty shorts, raise your hand. Okay, mostly booty shorts. I think for me it's neither, because like you said, I don't like to wear underwear either, unless I have to, just. Here's another one: experience or advice. Do you trust learning more from personal experience, which is experience, or from advice from others when it comes to sex and relationships?
For like, I think I have looked at my like mother and my sisters, and they just don't know how to pick them. So like, I'm glad that like I've experienced like what I should not do. So in that sense, like, I mean, they didn't really give me advice. I just seen it. So I was like, let's not do that. But like, I think for me, like, I would definitely be interested to hearing what everyone has to say, but I think you are your own individual, so you got to sit there and make that choice on your own. So I definitely love to hear what everyone has to share. Sometimes I don't, because then I end up finding out like I'm more kinkier than them, and I'm like,
yeah, it's like you didn't like it, but I loved it.
I was like, wait, y'all don't do that? Like, hold on. But no, yeah, I definitely love to hear what others have to say. But remember, you make your own decisions.
For the most part, I've gone through more of the personal experience portion, but I will say that it is healthy to listen to other people's advice and listen to other people's experiences. You just reminded me of when we used to have like these safer sex workshops with the empowerment program that I used to run, and those were fun. Just how we're laughing here today, like we would talk about our own experiences, our own kinks, our own little stories that we did at the nightclub or at Steamworks or something like that. And I find that empowering because we learn from each other. We learn like a buddy, like that's how we learned the buddy system, So yeah, it could be a combination of both, but for the most part, it's through my own personal experience. I used to be a hoe.
Ooh. I think both are important. I like advice from other people because I'd like to learn from other people's mistakes. But at the same time, I kind of want to see it for myself. And thanks for the heads up. But experience is important because that person is giving you the advice. They had the experience, which led to them giving you the advice. So without the experience, who are you to advise me? How about consent or boundaries? Which is more important topic when working in outreach for both drag and sex work? Discussing consent or setting boundaries?
That's a good question. I think both. You have to give yourself boundaries, right? So, like, what you ultimately know that you're not going to do. But I think consent is also important when you introduce someone to your body, right? And so I think it's both. Having your own boundaries, like, no, bitch, I'm not gonna do this. I'm not going like to golden shower anyone, or like, you know, like, I don't know, crazy stuff out here, right? But yeah, I think it's both.
Yeah, I agree. I believe they're both equally as important. Definitely, consent is very, very important, but boundaries too. Like, even if, yeah, they're just as equally important, both, to have both while we're doing the work in the community because, we're going to encounter some people that might not respect our boundaries, but they're going to respect my consent.
I think they kind of overlap because with consent, with boundaries, you're giving someone consent to go this far, which is the boundary. So I think it's kind of one and the same, and they both are equally as important. I wouldn't pick one. But let's do one more. Bare or flare? Do you prefer the natural touch, which is skin on skin, body heat, bare, or spicing things up with a little extra fun from your favorite toys, which is the flare? I'm going to start. I'd rather do bare because I'd rather have the hot meat with a heartbeat. I mean, that's what I always say. Because, you can't really get a pulse from, a dildo.
You'll be surprised.
Doesn't act the same. I mean, I know they got technology
they got
out
some
there.
Of them out
I
there.
know, but I need something that's gonna, talk back to me.
They got that too.
Oh, they do.
That's a hard question. I think like I equally enjoy bottoming and topping, right? So, but I will say like I'm topping other people. Like I have a fleshlight, so like I use it like if I'm trying to get buck wild, but like not as much as I use like my dildo because for me like I much rather. That's why I would name my dildo myself because I enjoy fucking myself, but I also enjoy fucking other people. So I think both.
What was the question again? Oh,
Bare or flare.
Yeah. Because I was thinking about my answer.
Well, girl, you weren't thinking because you didn't know the question.
Oh, girl, actually, I was just thinking about this cute memory, girl, flashback, which I'll talk about in a second. So, for my experience, I've experienced more of the bare portion, but the flare part, I want to get more into that because that's why I was like, because I was remembering a few years back, there was this partner that I had that, we were fucking each other, taking turns. And then he pulls out a double-sided dildo and he asked if I wanted to try it. And I've never used it. And I'm like, well, I've never used it. You know what? Fuck it. Let's try it. And that shit was hot as fuck. Like,
girl.
Bumping asses as, like, the double-sided dildo. And he was hot, so that helped a lot. So he was hot, and just the both of us, like, pussy bumping, like, asses. I don't know. It was very hot. So I'm beginning to be more open to toys and the flare part because, why not? Let's be more liberated, Let's try it. Why not?
Can we talk about that? Can we talk about the double-sided dildos?
Oh, let's talk.
No, because it is like I love, as a trans woman, I love me a good gay boy. I don't know what it is. I just love me a good gay boy. And I want to bump purses. Like, girl, like, I think it would be so hot, like, recording it and, like, a gay man and a trans woman bumping purses. If you were not making thousands off of that video, you did not market it correctly. But
the fans would love it.
I think that is so hot, like bumping purses.
Oh,
Can we get a show of hands in the audience of who's bumped purses before?
yeah.
I want to see. Yeah.
Okay. We got two.
Y'all need to
bump
try it. We need to
purses.
put more double-sided dildos in the toy boxes then, cause
Come on now.
Is it gonna fit?
Oh, y'all get two
There's
boxes. Y'all get two boxes. And the dildos are just like,
That's if two people get tested at the same time. You can get the
Yes.
double-sided dildo. Bring a friend, get you a double-sided dildo.
not the friend, not the friend.
Friend.
Yeah, that's my friend. That's my friend.
Oh, yes. Okay, somebody said Valentine's Day. I know that's right. And that has been This or That. So real quick, we'd like to remind you that you can revisit old broadcasts, suggest future shows, and you'll be one click away from signing up to get a free test and toy box on our new page at projectvita.org/toywithme. No spaces. And speaking of the toy box, here's a little more about it with the video from Mount Sinai, Chicago. Check it out.
Hey, Michelle, what are you doing tonight?
Hey Eric, Project BDOT is doing the Toy With Me party on Zoom.
Nice. What's that all about?
They focused on this and sex positive topics, and they're going to be offering free home HIV testing kits to Sinai Infectious Disease Center.
HIV home test kits. How does that work?
So they're going to share a link in the chat where you can sign up to get your home test kit.
Okay, I've been wanting to get tested, but I didn't really want to leave the house.
I feel you. You just give them your contact info, and someone from Sinai will contact you to send out your free home HIV testing kits. They'll put it in an unmarked box to your mailbox.
Okay, then I do the test by myself. It sounds kind of difficult.
It's not that hard. Once you get the test kit, it's pretty easy. Just follow the step-by-step directions, and you'll get your results in about 20 minutes. Let Sinai know that you took the test and what your results were, and you can even call them and they'll walk you through it. Sinai will then contact Project Vita to let them know that you took the test, and they'll send you out a complimentary gift bag.
Can they also help me access PrEP and any other sexual health needs?
Yeah, of course. Sinai partner up with Project Vita to provide sexual health education, prevention tools, and medical treatment to the community. And they have lots of services too.
Sounds awesome. I definitely want to go and get tested at home, and I'll do the Toy With Me party too.
And now it is time for Just the Tip. When in doubt, talk it out and know your worth. Open conversations about boundaries and consent, whether you're performing or in intimate settings, lead to safer and more enjoyable experiences. Remember, valuing your health and well-being always comes first. Communication, self-care, and setting clear boundaries not only protect you, but make every experience more empowering and fun. That has been Just the Tip. I would give y'all a little bit more, but you know, this ain't that type of show. So I do have a couple of questions for y'all. So as we wrap things up and wind down, what are your favorite hookup apps, if any? Do y'all use any?
No, I don't like hookup apps. No.
What?
I don't know. I think they're a waste of time and like, I don't really care for sex. I know that sounds crazy. I don't care for sex. So I like good foreplays and intimacy. So maybe, yeah, but I think I'm trying to like stay away from those apps because they're all the same and they're all like ran through. I'm like, girl, where
the same
are
people
the
on there.
people that like aren't cheese trays? Like where I find them at?
How about
That's
you?
the second time you said cheese tray. Could you explain cheese tray for the folks at home? and the
Cheese tray. So, you know, like you're at a fancy restaurant and there's a platter of cheese and it's being passed around,
Oh,
you know? You know, everyone's taking a piece of the cheese, you know? A cheese tray.
Okay.
Well, see, okay, I am on some hookup apps, but my favorite one was Badoo. But I got blocked from there because someone reported my page. So I thought it was shady as fuck. Because, I would get a lot of straight men, hit me up on there. And that's where I got most of, some partners. Especially when I lived in Homo Park. But yeah, like, and it hurt my feelings. I'm like, you fucking bitches. Y'all had me blocked in this app where I was so successful in there.
Ooh.
And yeah, and I mean, I'm on Grindr, but I be lazy. Nowadays. My sex drive ain't the same no more. But yeah, I'm on Grindr, but not all the time. But yeah, my favorite one that I miss so dearly, Badu. Let me back, Badu. If y'all watching this, let me back in, please.
We're gonna start a petition.
Yes.
Me, I spent more time off of the apps and them shut down and away from my phone than on. And I recently got back on them. I think I got a Grindr account out there somewhere. I'm on Tinder. I've been entertaining that for a little bit. And there's another one, Scruff. I was on that one, but I don't take it too seriously because they don't take me serious. So I just be like, okay, if I see you in person, that's what it is.
There's actually apps out there for people who are positive, like HIV. It could be HIV positive, HPV, other STIs. I tried it, but man, they try to charge me, and I ain't trying to pay. But if anybody knows any free apps for people who are HIV positive or other STI positive, which I find are pretty cool. Like my friend told me, like, yeah, girl, because they're positive too, and then they told me about it, and I'm like, okay, let me try it out. But it definitely is. I find it like as a healthy tool to have an app specifically for people who living with HIV, because you already have that awkward conversation. Even though I'm publicly open about my HIV status, when it's on apps, it's like I don't put it right away. Like I have the discussion with them if we're decide to meet up. But yeah, it eliminates that awkwardness of having that conversation with them, and nobody likes to get rejected. So people living with HIV, we get rejected a lot on apps, even in person, just because of our status and because of stigma. So yeah, I appreciate those apps that do exist for folks that are positive.
Okay. I didn't know those apps were out like that. Because, I try to stay away from the apps, but they pull me back in sometimes. What do y'all have in y'all spend the night / AKA whole bag?
Y'all, my whole car used to be my whole bag.
Whole car?
Let's talk about it. What used to be in my car when I was a hoe? Obviously, like a cute pair of panties. Cause what about if you just did not wear the cute panties? Like, cute pair of panties. Obviously, like if you're bottoming, please bring your douche bottle, like or something. The water bottle. Come on, y'all. Like, girl, let's be innovative.
Ain't no excuse.
Toothbrush, a razor, lotion, condoms, lube, toys, right? Because sometimes sometimes I need to open myself up before I let someone else in because it's so tight and stuff. But yeah, oh no, I never bring an extra pair of clothes because it's always my mission to walk away with something of theirs.
Whoa.
Like a souvenir. Yeah, like a sweater or a long T-shirt, like.
Oh, okay.
I'm not boosting in their house.
Oh, I was about to say.
I'm not boosting, but.
Somebody, that's a nice watch.
I was like, ooh, that wallet looks cute. Snatched. No. What do you have, Milani?
Nothing, girl. I don't believe in sleeping over in no one's house. I'm gonna sleep in my own
No,
bed.
it's not sleeping. Oh, sometimes the whole bag or spend the night bag.
So you can get ready real quick.
Yeah,
just leave it in the car, leave it in the trunk.
I don't know. I just get ready at home.
That bitch be painting.
Oh, so you got to stop by the crib first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm like.
So you don't hold on the go.
Yeah.
Oh, she's a sophisticated
Yeah,
hoe.
like, I don't
She
like
takes her
carrying
time
nothing
at
with
home.
me. Yeah.
So what?
You got to go
Everything
reset
is
real
like
quick.
that.
Okay.
So I
get
was the
that.
cheese tray. I was like, damn.
I get that. What makes you feel? It's really generic, but what makes you feel sexually empowered?
Fucking a bottom. No.
Yeah, you did say that.
No, yeah. No, I think what empowers me the most is when I'm able to have that conversation. It's going to sound so cliche, but like when I actually have that conversation like with people on like what their pleasures are and stuff like that, because I think like since I love, I want to make sure that I get pleasure and they get pleasure.
I feel like you are reading my mind because I feel like that's empowering just to say what you want to do to somebody.
Listen, if you're trying to bump purses later, just let me know. We don't have that in stock right now, but we're working on it for next month. No, but yeah, I think just that, because I always love to reflect afterwards. Like either while you're waiting for the Uber or like whatever, like. This was good. Maybe we can work on this a little better. Like I always want to walk away, like just making sure like I busted and they busted too.
Was the question what makes you feel sexually empowered?
Empowered, yeah.
would have to say, just like someone who like enjoys my body as thick as it is. Yeah, like body positivity. And I find it harder now because when I used to be 100 pounds lighter, it was easier for me to, get the trade and all that. So now I'm a little bit thicker than a Snicker. It's a little bit harder. But, I definitely, if it actually helps to filter out those that don't want me as my Beyonce, But yeah, I definitely appreciate someone who has an open mind about body positivity, because like, hey, if I'm thick and that's your fetish, call me.
I got one more question. Has your work at Calor affected how you have sex?
Yes, it has. So I've been at Calor for like a little over a year. And I think it has allowed me to introduce a lot of things to my menu, because I think like I feel like if I am having sex, I feel more comfortable and confident in the protective measures that I'm doing, like condoms, lube, prep, like pep, doxy pep, like all of these different things I know that I wouldn't have known of had I not started working here. And so like I'm happy because now we're like turning it, we're out here.
Yeah, I would say it has affected me because, to make very quick story.
Oh, wait, before you go into that, also like, oh, maybe I shouldn't say this because I don't want to get in trouble.
Oh.
But like, like
get in
you get
trouble
like
now.
free condoms and lube, right? So like you're just like endless supply of like whatever you need, it's like,
if you need them, then use them.
listen, sometimes
Put them
you
to good
just-
use.
you gotta do clockwork.
They do expire. Don't
They
let
do
them expire.
They do expire.
Mm-hmm.
I have to be very careful because we're in Humboldt Park, and I used to live in Humboldt Park. And there's been occasions where doing testing at the Puerto Rican Festival, and I see a couple of trade walking by, and I'm like, oh my god, I know them. So yeah, I've always been terrified that one day someone's gonna come into the office and I have to test them, and it's someone I already ate up. So it's like, ooh.
No, that's even spicier. That's even
I
spicier.
gotta be careful. With
You're like the nurse, You're like, I'm gonna prick you. It only takes
not at
1
work
minute.
though, girl.
That's
Maybe like in the alley or McDonald's or
not
something.
the alley.
Not the alley. Well, maybe the alley. Well, now for some important announcements.
Project Vita would like to remind you that we have a variety of care programs and support groups available. From Caminando Juntos, an all Spanish-speaking HIV support group, T for T, a trans empowerment group by trans folk for trans folk, Affirming Loving Learning Youth, or Ally, our youth LGBTQ+ support group, and Empowerment Echo, our domestic violence support group for lesbian and bisexual women. To learn more about the programs you see on your screen, email care@projectvita.org or visit projectvita.org/care. The Mind, Body, and Soul Health and Wellness Circle offers a wide range of programming available to Black, gay, bisexual, and same gender-loving men in Chicago. These offerings include, but are not limited to, free classes, online resources, and community building activities. To learn more about upcoming events, classes, and to sign up, please visit shywellnesscircle.com or sign up through projectvita.org/mbs-signup.
Toy With Me is streamed live on the third Sunday of every month, like today. Our next stream will be here at the Project Vita Wellness Center on St. Louis and 26th Street in Little Village. We will have more seats for a live audience, free testing, get you a toy box, and are looking forward to seeing you or hear from you in our live chat. So to check all of our events, you can go to projectvita.org/events and onyxmidwest.com/events. Real quick, remember to follow at Project Vita Inc. and at Onyx Midwest, no spaces, on Twitter, well, now it's X, or Instagram, and look for our stories and posts on our upcoming shows, topics, and call for questions. We will answer the questions you send at the end of the show every month. But before we go, it is time for our live Q&A. Now, we're going to get to some of these questions. Y'all got some questions in the audience? Do we have anybody? Hit that number. Go ahead and get that walk-in testing. I think I'm about due for one.
Yeah, so I had a question about Calor. Where is it located?
Good question.
We are located at 3201 West North Avenue on the corner of North Avenue and Kedzie.
What she said.
Where can we follow Calor and y'all?
Yeah, so you can follow Calor at Calor Chicago. That's at Calor Chicago. And then you can follow me on Instagram under puta_power_. And Milani.
You can reach me at you can find me on Instagram as Melusion, MILUSI0N, or La Melusion on TikTok. I just got TikTok, so I'm still learning how to do all that. Or on Facebook as my professional name, Milani Varela. Or sometimes you can catch me at the door and hydrate, charging you hoes at the door.
Okay. Do we have any more questions in the audience?
Yes, I do have a
Okay.
question. Can I get a show of hands? Who's a bumping purses cruise over here? Any bumping purses in the audience?
I know that was two earlier in the audience.
Oh, now y'all are shy. But when they were
somebody
talking about
shy.
bumping purses, I heard a lot of giggling.
Oh. Now, why'd you ask that?
It's actually really hard. It's a really technical thing to do.
Oh.
It's not that hard. Put it in one hole and then put it in the other hole and start
And
going
go to
ham.
work.
No.
Mm?
Do we have any other audience questions for the host, the guest?
Now, remember, y'all can always,
We got one right here.
put those questions. Oh, go ahead.
So my question is, how do you start like sex working? And do you think I could do it?
How did I start sex working? So, this is a tricky question to answer. I think, ideally, I would love to live in a world where we didn't have to sex work. I think that investing in community and investing in job readiness programs for our community members is something that is super important and needed. Now, I will say when I was 15 years old is when I was introduced to sex work, and it was the most traumatic experience of my life, and there are things that I'm still working on right now. So ideally I would live in a world where we didn't have to do it unless we wanted to do it, but I think if it's based off of necessity, and we need to make a quick buck, I think do it. Let's do it safely. Make sure to get tested, make sure you know your boundaries and you know your safety plan.
Yeah. Because your question was how do you the
How did
person
you get started?
or I feel like in general, like there's different kinds, right? There's websites specifically for escorting. There's OnlyFans. There's different things out there. But I feel, of course, you can do it. Anyone can do it, and you shouldn't be ashamed of doing it if that's what you want to or you need to do. But definitely, like Emily mentioned, it's forming some type of safety plan too as well, when it comes to getting tested, knowing your status, because also you got to learn the loopholes. And for example, like if you're gonna exchange money, you can't hand it to the person in their hand. You're supposed to put it on the counter and be like, this is your tip, because there are undercover cops out there that are specifically getting people because of that. So there's little tricks here and there that I've learned along the way. But you talk to other sex workers to see how they got started, to learn the little trinkets here and there and how to do it safely.
And I think like creating your menu with your prices will be so key and so important. Like obviously, like sometimes when you're like, damn, I fucking need that $20, like I'm gonna just do it, but like for the most part, like this is your body that we're talking about. Like if you're not overcharging, then girl, I don't know, you're doing something wrong. I think like overcharging because it's your body, and we invest in the clothes, right, and the mental health therapy that we need to go to. Like there's just so many different layers that we don't think. We're just like, oh yeah, like I'ma just go bust it down, bust it open, and that's gonna be it. Which maybe, yeah, like it might feel good at that moment, maybe it might not, but like making sure that you have your menu with what you're offering and what you're not offering and how much it is. So like you mean business,
No negotiation, huh?
Not here.
And don't get your feelings involved because this ain't Pretty Woman.
That's. Do we have any more questions? I thought I saw a hand.
So what is everybody gonna be for Halloween?
Oh, it is coming up. I have several costumes. This is just one. It's just one look.
Okay, so for me, Halloween's not a big thing because I'm always dressing up. So it's not, it's whatever. But I have always been wanting to dress like Ross from Monsters Inc. The one that I'm watching ya. because my coworkers from Hydrate make fun of me that I'm a bitch like that at the door when I'm charging people. So I think that'd be pretty fucking hilarious. You walking into the club and then you see Ross there. $10 to get in. I'm watching ya.
I think I've been hanging around with Delusion. I mean Millusion, with Milani a little too much. I think I would be sickening as Beyonce, but that's just me. I love Beyonce so much, but no, I think I'm a good Pentecostal woman. So like we really didn't grow up like trick or treating, but I don't know. Drop it down in the chat what you want me to be.
All right. If there's not any more questions, let me go ahead and conclude this month. Thank you for watching Toy With Me. Thank you to our guests for joining us. And thank you for our audience member for joining us. We will see y'all next time.
Welcome to Toy With Me. My name is Jerome Montgomery, and I have the honor of serving as the Executive Director of Project Vita. Toy With Me is our monthly live and live streaming event where we discuss and explore ways of creating a spicier, safer sexual experience through education on the use of adult toys, as well as an exploration of kink and fetish. Here at Toy With Me, we promote sex positivity and embrace all gender-loving communities. Toy With Me events are sponsored and produced by Project Vita, a nonprofit organization located on the southwest side of Chicago, where we provide a host of low-cost or free services to the community, including behavioral health services, case management services, food pantry services, acupuncture and massage, as well as rental and utility assistance. Once again, we would like to show you how grateful we are by joining us tonight. We encourage you or welcome you to just sit back and enjoy, or join us in the conversation by dropping your questions or comments into the chat. Join me in welcoming the gentleman of Onyx Midwest.
Thanks, Jerome. I'm Cariño Blaze Onyx of Onyx Midwest. Onyx was founded in 1995 to bridge men of color to the leather community through education and fraternization. With 10 chapters nationwide, the Midwest chapter serves Chicago, St. Louis, Milwaukee, Des Moines, and other cities in the Midwest. You can visit onyxmidwest.com to learn more. We're proud to partner with Project Vita for Toy With Me, bringing Kink 101 topics to our community, and we hope you enjoy the show. Thanks.
We could have been talking all night. Lost track of time. Looked up, I'm like, oh damn.